admission standards, overall standards. I think a huge one is women in combat and quotas. I think the way they pushed that under Obama in a way that had zero to do with efficacy, zero to do with lethality and capability.
You don't like women in combat?
No.
Why not?
I love women service members who contribute amazingly because everything about men and women serving together makes the situation more complicated. And complication in combat means casualties are worse. And when you actually go into the hood, again, and I got response. I've got 99% positive response to this. A little bit of pushback, but when you actually break down what they did in the studies to open the door for women in combat, I mean, they just ignored them. So the Marine Corps was the only service that actually tried to fight back and say, and now obviously I'm exempting special operations, which thus far has held the line fairly well. Because if they were lowering the standard to become a Navy SEAL, just to let women inside the Navy SEALs, that's going to change the capabilities and ethos of the Navy SEALs, except for a very small example of some, female super soldier who's capable of doing it. But because of how Washington works, they're going to change the standards. They're going to push for quotas. We have numerous quotes in the book of, no, these standards aren't changing. They're just evolving. Okay, they're just evolving.
Okay.
To meet the needs of today.
They're not getting tougher.
They're not getting tougher. No. So they're getting lower. Take someone like Milley. I mean, he was calling down to individual units to make sure they had female company commanders after they graduated from Ranger School. Like, what's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs doing pushing company command slots for? It's all an agenda. It's all to say, oh, we have this first, or we have this, that. So that's proliferated everywhere. The reason women started getting in combat is because of forward support companies, and they were, we were integrating a lot of the rear echelon activities into BCTs, brigade combat teams, that were now deploying forward as an entity. And so you had women truck drivers or fuel or mechanics on these convoys in Iraq and Afghanistan, and then they'd be ambushed or hit by IEDs, and suddenly now you have women in combat. That's maybe a modern reality in a 360 battlefield. That's different than intentionally saying, we're going to put women into combat roles so they will do the combat jobs of men, knowing that we've changed the standards in putting them there, which means you've changed the capability of that unit. And if you say you haven't, you're a liar, because everybody knows between bone density and lung capacity and muscle strength, men and women are just different. And so if you want to, I'm okay with the idea that you maintain the standards where they are for everybody. And if there's some, hard-charging female that meets that standard, great, cool, join the infantry battalion. But that is not what's happened.
Yeah.
What has happened is the standards have lowered because the general comes by and asks a question. You know what questions are when generals ask questions. They're just a command. Lieutenant or captain or major, why aren't there more women in your unit? That means get some more women in your unit now. And that moves all the way through the training pipeline. And so I'm surprised there hasn't been more blowback on that already in the book, because I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. Most of them actually are, a lot of them are pushed, I shouldn't say most, but many are pushed into a combat track because they're so highly capable. But if they had their first choice, it probably wouldn't be that. An 11 series job, armor or infantry. So, I mean, the Marine Corps did the study, and integrated units, meaning male, female, did drastically worse than all-male units. And Ray Mabus, who was the Secretary of the Navy in 2015, said, oh, fuck your study. We're doing it. Because that's what the Obama administration wanted. And everything else changed. So I'm not saying that was the only point, but and I don't know if that'll ever change. I mean, imagine the demagoguery that would come on in Washington, D.C., if you're actually making the case for, we should scale back women in combat. And as the disclaimer for everybody out there, and I'm not really in the disclaimer business, like, we've all served with women and they're great. It just, our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where not traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I think women, I have to give my opinion here, I guess. I think women do have a place in combat if they want it. I think there are certain units that they need to stay out of or create their own. Because when you said it gets complicated, yeah, it does get complicated, man. I mean, sex happens everywhere. And I talked about this on another one and I got blasted for it. Like, oh, well, you guys should be more professional. Yeah, fuck you, okay? Like, wasn't there like some senator's aide getting his ass pounded in D.C.?
In the
Like,
hearing
there's
room.
your top people.
In the hearing room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then we got a president getting blowjobs under the desk. Like, give me a break, man. Come on. This shit happens everywhere. Everybody knows it. Happens everywhere in corporate. Happens everywhere in government. Like, it's just humanity. Like, people are gonna have sex, and that creates drama, and that breaks team dynamics and creates issues between personnel. And the next thing you know, you're going to combat with a bunch of people that hate each other because there was some kind of a love triangle going on in the platoon or the
Or would
unit.
treat somebody differently in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, maybe something like a female engagement team. Like, I understand the role of female engagement teams.
I mean, there's some
Like, I get
amazing
that.
pilots.
I'm not even
Amazing
talking about pilots. I'm not talking about pilots. I'm not talking about the ability to, I'm talking about physical
Yeah.
labor-intensive type jobs. So
Shooting
maybe you're
people
talking
in the face at close distance when it's very personal. That's the kind of stuff you're talking
SEALs,
about.
Rangers, Green Berets, MARSOC, infantry battalions, armor, artillery. If strength, I'm talking about stuff that would need strength is a differentiator.
Yeah.
Pilots, give me a female pilot all day long. I got no issues with that.
Yeah.
I got no issues with thank you for that opportunity to clarify. But on the physical stuff, there's just a difference.
Yeah.